morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Poland Weekly Business Focus program. There is a saying, sky is the limit. But today with my guest, I would actually say that the space is the limit. My special guest today is Jędrzej Kowalewski, CEO and founder of Scanway SA, the company that has a solution at the intersection of optics and mechatronics to the space and manufacturing industry. Welcome.
Hello.
Fascinating topic. I must say I'm a big fan of your company and of all your achievements. There is such a huge list that I'm not sure whether we will be able to discuss all of them. But really, in terms of the sector itself, in terms of the space, from the human perspective, what we can achieve, what can give to the humanity, to the business, on the societal level, on the geopolitical level, I think it's also fascinating. And you are part of this world, so I hope that you will tell us a little bit of that. From that perspective, from the market perspective, but also from the investment perspective, because I can imagine that apart from the knowledge and experience in this field, funding is a critical aspect of performing in this industry. So, well, let's start. For sure, you have proven your business case also through the fantastic business results. I mean, the growth of over 200 year to year in terms of the revenue, I think it's a huge achievement. So let's go back a little bit and let's maybe discuss a little bit about the company, the profile of the company, but also the milestones that led you to the position where you are today.
So Scanway company has a division of two branches. So one branch is, let's say, more terrestrial one. We produce vision systems, which allows our customers to do the automatic quality inspection of, for example, parts that are being produced on the manufacturing plants. But we also have the space division, which is growing rapidly. We are providing instruments for the satellites. So we provide optical payloads. So it's the crucial part of the satellites that are focusing on providing data about Earth. So we produce images from the satellites. We produce data from let's say gas composition in atmospheres. So we produce many different type of data products for many different customers who usually produce a constellation of satellites, sets of satellites. So we are focusing on giving eyes to the satellites.
Okay, so in terms of the customers, if you could be more precise, who is your customer?
So we have different kind of customers. Of course, we have customers such as scientific institutes who order from us optical payloads. So these instruments that can see the Earth and also the astronomical objects. But this is the type of user who is usually launching only one satellite. But what we focus mostly and what is the key type of customer for our company is the constellation manufacturers, constellation providers. So the companies that want to launch a set of satellites, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 10, and sometimes it's even 200 satellites. And each of these satellites needs to be almost identical. Each of these satellites needs to have the same type of optical payload in the instrument that is imaging the Earth. And we provide for them the solution that is also evolving through the time, because they launched not only for one time 200 satellites, but they built a business model based on data provision. And we work with them through many years to provide new instruments for the new generation of this constellation. So this is the type of customer that is growing rapidly now in the space business, because constellations is the topic of many different domains in space.
And obviously, I can imagine that you are international companies, so your customers from all around the world.
Yes, exactly. We just recently signed contract with South Korean company. We also have contracts for example, from Kazakhstan for the company that is joint venture of Airbus, and they have division there. We also have our office in USA. We also work with JPL. Hopefully we can provide them with additional instruments. I mean, NASA JPL, so the Jet Propulsion Lab, the institute that launches also the rovers for on Mars. So yes, we have different customers. We work also with the European companies from Germany, from Czech Republic, from Sweden. So yes, generally global company, because space is a global market.
Mm-hmm. And when I think about the complexity of all those, topics related to the space, in terms of the cooperation, or international aspects? Is it more competition or is it more cooperation and partnerships?
Of course, we work with companies that could be competitive to each other. Sometimes we work with one satellite integrator, the company that integrates the satellite into one piece of machinery. And sometimes we work with different satellite integrator, and together they don't want to work, but we provide instruments for this and that. And this is, of course, from our perspective, also beneficial for us and for them to learn each other topics, because optical payloads, it's not a simple task to provide. It's also important for satellite integrator to understand what type of payload he can put into his satellite, what are the requirements. So we work in a very complex way and in a very deep cooperation with them. And we usually build bridges, not the competitive ones.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And tell me, what stands behind such a success? Because I understand that first you started with the industrial part, and then something happened and inspired you to get into the space market. What was the reason to do so?
Yes, because if you look at the mix of the founders of the Scanway, you could see a lot of people that are very focused on space. We were always interested in space industry, in astronomy, in topics related to the cosmos in general. So we always wanted to do things for space industry. During our studies, during our academic life, we also were part of student projects for ESA, Education Office, which is very important part of European ecosystem of space education. And we were taught how to run the space projects, how to determine the requirements, how to assess the risk, how to provide the final engineering solution in very short period of time. So we learned that, and also we started a company. We knew that to provide something for the space business, we need many years of development, many years of technology preparation. So we decided that the best solution for this, let's say, Polish capital market would be to have this stable terrestrial part of company that can provide revenues, can provide income, and the second part that is growing technology that has R&D center, and in many years later will provide revenues also. And this is the time where we provide revenues also for the space. So that's the story. We always wanted to be in the part of space business, but we knew that we first need to do the homework on the Earth.
Mm-hmm. And what are the milestones in the growth of the company in this aspect?
Yes, we want to be part of big constellations. So we want to achieve cooperation with someone who is thinking about like 200 satellites. We also aim for telescopes because our payloads you can easily determine as telescopes. We want to provide telescopes that can give you submetric resolution. What does it mean? This means that if you are on the orbit, in the orbit that, for example, is like 500 kilometers above the Earth, you need as high resolution as possible to, for example, image as detailed aspects of Earth as possible, or for example, to see where the tank is in the woods in eastern Ukraine, for example. So you need high resolution. So our technological milestone is to provide telescopes that can have submetric resolution, so we can compete and we can work with customers who need military grade resolutions. So that is also one of our milestones. And also this year we launch our biggest telescope. So this year in a month we're gonna hopefully achieve another milestone, which is sending our biggest payload to the orbit.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. And is it competitive market in general? If we look on the global market?
It depends, because, for example,
or you found your niche.
We found our niche, of course, but there is competition there. That's good, because that's how we knew that there is money there. Space satellite manufacturing business, it's quite a big business globally. It has different actors inside, but most of the actors are the satellite integrators, which are not competitive to us. But there is about 16 payload providers who are around the globe. But hopefully for us, many of them are from the countries that are not happy to work with NATO countries. technologies. So we are also working sometimes closely with optical payload providers from a western part of Europe, but we see that we have different approach for different satellites, because most of the satellites that have been already launched into space are very small satellites. It's nanosatellites which are below 10 kilogram mass. We provide payloads for that, and the amount of satellites that are also a little bit bigger, so like microsatellites below 200 kilograms, is growing rapidly, and most of the payload providers are not prepared to go into that market. So we provide very broad range of products that can be used in nanosatellites, microsatellites, and hopefully in the future in the bigger satellites. And this is the most competitive part, because there you have big players, you have Airbus, you have Thales, you have Safran, which are the Western European companies that we want to work together to provide best solutions, and sometimes we need to compete.
Well, obviously you have experience, knowledge, and passion, but I can also assume that this is very capital intense market. So how about funding? Whether it's easy to attract investors? I mean, all tech in general seems to be attractive, but then of course here the level of starting, I believe, is really high. So how do you see the discussions with the investors about the prospects that the market gives?
That's a good question. Of course, we can see what are the size of, for example, seed rounds in the US regarding space tech. This is the size of rounds that are way above the growth rounds in Poland, for example, in space tech. We are not, let's say, already so mature in Poland that investors don't have so much money for the space tech. That's true. That's why our strategy from the very first day of Scanway was to think about how to create lean approach for space tech development. And this lean approach is to have terrestrial branch that provides revenues, and then develop something for our space aims. And of course, we are quite lean in developing technology, because we use very risk lowering approach, which means that we use nanosatellites to test our technology. For example, last year we launched the Starvibe satellite in January. This is the satellite that is still working in the orbit, taking images of the Earth. This satellite uses our telescope, which is maybe the size of this glass, so very small telescope, but the electronics and the sensor and the whole software for this electronic board is provided by us, and it's the same that will almost the same technology that is going to be launched next month in the Eagle Eye satellite, which is very big. So we divided the risk. We launched firstly the small satellite that was below 2 million zlotys in total costs. So it's of course it's a lot of money, but for the space economy it's not too much. So we launched a very let's say lean in the budget line satellite, which proved us that this is okay, this needs to be changed, this needs to be a little bit resolved in a different manner, and we knew that exactly how to provide something for the bigger customer. So that's the approach that I usually endorse, and this approach gives you a possibility to provide space technology with a little bit lower price, because of course we could have a round of, like, I don't know, 50 million zlotys, try to do that. We can use this money to provide something for the big mission in 3 years. But for us, the best approach is to divide this risk for different small missions. And also, we are quite fast in acquiring customers. So we also use customer money to develop products. So this is the best approach, I think. So you can, of course, use a lot of money, but and in the end, for example, for scaling the production, when we're gonna go into the constellations more deeply. So, for example, we're gonna need to provide not one payload, not two payloads, but, for example, 200 payloads in 3 years. Then we're gonna need investments. But then the risk is way smaller, because the investors will not be investing in in R&D process, they will be investing in a production line that is for already proven technology. So that's the way how we deal with the capital markets.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's worth emphasizing that last year you entered actually Warsaw Stock Exchange and you are now on the New Connect. And any lessons learned after these several months? Also,
Yes.
I understand being in dialogue with investors, whether you understand the market, any surprises?
Yes, for me there was actually no big surprises. I think the most important part in any kind of stock exchange is to educate the investors. And because in Poland we don't see too much space companies, of course we have like now maybe about 30 companies that are doing something for really space business, not only doing some additional services for I don't know, GPS or something like this, because this is of course space, but not such a deep tech. We know that educating the investors, because we have this company, we have this technology, it's very important. That's why we also provided educational cycle Lens to the Orbit, which gives our investors information about what we are working on, what are the different aspects of satellites, what you need to focus on when you want to launch the satellite to image Earth, and to give them brief information on a very let's say high level, what you need to focus on when you want to invest in space companies. So that's the thing that we learned from New Connect. You need to educate the investors.
Mm-hmm. And any profile of the investors you could mention in terms of what you observe?
Yes, we have some institutional investors. We also see that there is a growing number of investors in Poland who have quite big capital for investment, and they know the space quite good because it's quite kind of interesting market, and they have growing knowledge about space business. They invest in Polish space companies, so there are two of them on the stock market, so we and Cryotech. They invest also in startups who are just developing the space products, and they are investing abroad. So, for example, in different companies from around the world. So they know exactly what's the comparison between our companies. That's the good, because this kind of investors also provide additional knowledge for another people how to invest in space.
Okay, and what are the trends? Because I think it's also important to see what are the trends and how are you capitalizing on these trends. I think this storytelling is also important for investors. So what do you tell them?
Yes, constellations is a very important trend, because it has a lot of opportunities. It has a lot of advantages. First of all, if you have only one satellite and something happens to the satellite, you lost all the data that you can provide from space. If you have constellation of satellites, if one fails, you have another data streams. So this is the let's say more robust approach for space data generation. And constellations also provide less revision time. So this means that if you, for example, want to image Warsaw, and you can do that with one satellite. So this one satellite will maybe be here again in 3 to 4 days, because that's how the orbit works, and satellites don't fly above each point exactly on the Earth every day. For the best images, you need to wait about 3-4 days. So constellation way lowers this time. So for example, you can have, for a constellation of 16 satellites, you can have revision time lesser than 1 day. And this is very huge, important thing for processes that are happening around the Earth. And what's the best part of constellation, which is not always spoken, if you produce something in a series, you way lower the costs and you way lower the risk. So, for example, that's the success of SpaceX, because they produce not only one rocket, they provide the whole production line for the Falcon 9 rocket and also for the Starship. This year, I think they launched one rocket each 3 days. So this is a huge achievement. And for space industry, it's also good to understand that if you produce something not only for one piece, but for the series of products, then you lower the costs, then you lower the risk, and you provide something for the big amount of customers. And exactly this is something that globally space business now needs. We have customers that wait 2 years for one payload because the providers of payloads are having so much orders. So the way to cooperate in a more production line approach is the best for the space business. So I would say this is the trend in the space satellite business.
Yeah, but also looking from the demand perspective, you mentioned military, but I believe that there are some industries that your solution serves, and maybe some of the industries can speed up the process. Like usually, historically, always, the military was driving the research and development in many aspects. So do you see it happening right now?
Yes, of course, we can see what's happening in Europe, in Eastern Europe. This drives also the Polish Ministry of Defense, as I can say. There is Polish constellation Piast, which is the Polish constellation that Scanway is also providing with telescopes. So we hope that we can provide something that can raise the defense of Poland. So the drivers are also in the military market, but not only. Telecommunication market also raises the perspective for funding, and also in space servicing topics. So, for example, in past days we launched satellites that only operate for like 5 years, and then they need to be deorbited because, for example, they don't have enough fuel to maintain the position in the orbit, because they sometimes need to change the orbit and sometimes they need to adjust the attitude. So we need to deorbit the satellite because it's going to be used. And today, there is a lot of companies that want to service the satellite. So you launch something to refuel the satellite in the orbit, or you can launch something that can grab the satellite and rise its orbit with additional thrusters, and you can have a longer time of cooperation. I've recently wrote an article about I think Space Force that ordered, let's say, a jetpack for the satellite that can dock to the satellite and rise its orbit. So a lot of this kind of satellites, and for us it's a huge driver for business, because this satellite don't need to be operated manually from Earth. It needs to be automatical and autonomical. So we need to provide cameras and vision systems. This is exactly what we do, that can automatically give information and guide the satellite to the docking port, for example. So these are the drivers that drive the market right now.
So what are the next steps for your company?
We need to focus on our customers, of course. So we have this huge, one of the biggest, or maybe the biggest, upstream. So the contract for something that will be launched into space in history of Polish space market. The NARA company from South Korea want us to develop the telescope that will not only image Earth, but will also determine the amount of methane gas in the atmosphere, which is crucial, for example, for methane transfer. For example, you can see where the gas is flowing from the pipes, so where the leaks and this kind of problems. And also methane is it's a kind of greenhouse gas, much more problematic than CO2. So to determine who is producing the methane and ejecting it into atmosphere is also crucial for ecology. So we provide quite challenging product. We need to focus on that products, and we also need to work on our bigger payloads, because there is a huge demand on submetric resolution. So we want to work with customers on that product. So this is what things that we're going to aim for in the next months. Okay,
so actually your solutions are also a part of, let's say, the climate change, managing the problems and the solutions.
Yes,
you need to monitor, you need data
yes, exactly.
to make decisions.
It's a kind, for me, always problematic that I sometimes see comments in the internet that we focus on launching rockets, and these rockets also provide CO2 emission, because rockets provide CO2 emission because of the launch of the combustion of the fuel. But not everybody sees that we launched them also to see how the Earth is changing, how the climate is changing, who is producing CO2, who is producing methane. And for us, it's also a very important part of our work that we also work for better climate on Earth.
And data are critical, especially in the fake news era, where
Exactly.
People try to prove many different theories. Okay, so I must say, you are proud. You have many reasons to be proud, but I would like to ask this question: what are you the most proud of? You as personally.
I'm proud of the team that we built, because we have an interdisciplinary team, which is combined of people from optics, mechatronics, software, machine learning. This is kind of challenging to run a company like that, but with such team and good team of directors and board, we know how to do that in a good way. I'm proud of our satellite that is from last year in the orbit, which is the, let's say, cornerstone of our technology, because we showed everybody that we know how to do the stuff for space business. So that's maybe the two most important things.
You are very modest, I think. But congratulations, really. I really admire all your job and what you are doing. I think it's fascinating market, and it's fascinating, to observe that the Polish company is so successful in this era. So I keep fingers crossed for the further developments and achievements, and well, good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.